Retirement provision in South Africa continues to be a systemic challenge with long-term implications for the country's socio-economic resilience. According to Old Mutual, millions of South Africans risk retiring into poverty with significant consequences for their families, communities and the broader economy. This week on Business Spotlight, I'm joined by the Managing Executive of Old Mutual Corporate Consultants, Blessing Utete, to shed light on the upcoming Thought Leadership Forum and the future of retirement savings. Blessing, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is the second year that the Old Mutual Corporate is hosting this annual Thought Leadership Forum. What makes this year's conversation different?
Yeah, Gary, we're really excited about this year's edition. And then really, when we say from insight to impact, we're really talking about the kind of data and the insights that we have as a group and as an industry, and that we're now utilizing to say, how do we really get to real impact, to show signs of action and transformation of the retirement landscape. So really, we're honing in on those deep insights, taking in from the research that we've got, as well as from other thought leaders that are joining us, to really position what do we need to do next to change the trajectory of the South African retirement outcomes.
Well, you talk about the experts that you'll be having there. You have this impressive list this year, including speakers such as Professor Adrian Saville and also retirement expert Paul Watson from Australia. How do they feature in what it is that you're trying to get into the South African conversation?
Yeah, so Professor Saville and Paul Watson really thought leaders in their fields. We've got Professor Saville really talking to us about the relationship between savings and investments and the sort of retirement environment. And what's fascinating about some of the insights that he brings is we're a country that is very low on a savings rate. And he makes the correlation, which is quite obvious, that with our household savings rate so low and our contribution levels to retirement savings so low, it's very difficult for us to transition into a developing economy that's growing. So that's the kind of insights that he brings, and really looking forward to him taking that on and taking us through the journey of what it takes to really change that. And obviously a lot more insights on what needs to happen from an economic perspective. And then Paul Watson is coming in from Australia, and he's really taking us through the journey that Australia went over a 35-year period. And it's really interesting that we get to see what Australia did and how they've changed their trajectory from pretty much where we've been to now having a multi-trillion Australian dollar retirement industry, which is really vibrant, is well regulated, and really showing good outcomes for people at retirement.
So the old stats from National Treasury, and I just have to get this number correct, says 6% of South Africans can afford to retire. Does this still hold true? And what does Old Mutual's on-track data show about this number?
Yeah, Gary, that number does still remain stagnant. It is still coming out from our on-track data at that 6% mark. That's the number that is showing of South Africans that will comfortably retire. But we've just come out of a big retirement reform shift, which is the two-pot system, which came into effect September last year. And one of the things that the two-pot system did was it now has preservation in it, which is a fundamental change in the way our system works. So certainly over time, we are starting to see some green shoots in terms of what preservation will do. But we're also starting to see employers look at that kind of data and make certain decisions around the levers that can change that outcome. For example, things like changing the normal retirement age of people. We've seen a lot of large corporates making those changes, increasing. So the time you spend in a retirement fund, the time you spend saving, your savings rate, those things are big levers in terms of changing the trajectory of that number. So really a lot of education needs to go into us and stakeholders really improving that outcome going forward. But certainly in terms of fundamental changes, the two-pot was in the right direction. We're now talking in this thought leadership about what comes next. And really when we talk about what comes next, it's really around this issue of coverage. How do we get more people in the net of retirement savings?
I think, Blessing, perhaps also tell us about the Old Mutual Super Fund Employer Excellence Award and what this recognizes.
So this award that we're launching on the 40th anniversary of Superfund, which comes up this year, is really to demonstrate that we do have employers that are making the right decisions in terms of the levers around the sort of on-track improvement. So to improve the retirement outcomes, certain decisions have to be made by stakeholders, and we're looking at those employers in our umbrella fund that have made certain calls to improve the outcomes of their employees towards. So we'll see employers there that have done well in terms of contribution rates, in terms of defaults that they have put in place, as well as in terms of changing things like retirement, because those are the things that really impact the outcome at retirement. So really looking forward to getting to know who the winner is at our event next week, Tuesday.
Well, then also the Old Mutual Super Fund celebrates 40th anniversary this year. Spectacular. What major insights have emerged from analysing data across these umbrella fund data?
So Old Mutual's super fund has really grown to being one of the largest umbrella funds in the market. We were the first as Old Mutual to launch into umbrella funds. So really a long history that we've got and deep insights that we get from that. So we couple that with our on-track investigation, and that really shows the trajectory of employees and their outcomes. So we really are seeing some great improvements and enhancements to what Superfund is today, and that's really starting to show in terms of the outcomes that are improving for the employers that participate in our Superfund arrangement.
So Blessing, this award launched at this year's forum recognizes an employer that made a very big impact on member outcomes. And tell us more or less what it is that you were looking for in that kind of environment.
So we know that employers have a big influence on the design of the retirement fund that they have. It's part of their benefits employee value proposition. So we looked really at the employers that have used the levers that we know make a big difference towards retirement outcomes. So these are things like normal retirement age, how much people are contributing. This is also what investment strategy has been used in that particular fund. So those types of things we looked at. But importantly also, the one element that is quite key is in how employers have structured defaults. It's quite important that because employers are now looking at things like more choice for their employees, those defaults are structured properly so that actually we can still get the right outcomes. It's well and good for us to say, for an employer to say they want to give choice in terms of retirement contributions in terms of the tax deductibility structure. So they give from 5% to 27.5%, but we know 5% is too low for the right outcome. So there you're saying an employer needs to set a default at a reasonable number because you don't want people making a decision that shortchanges them in the long run and results in poor outcomes. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at how an employer has designed their structure to improve retirement outcomes.
We look forward to seeing who the winner of that is. We're going to have to leave it there. Blessing, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
That was the Managing Executive of Old Mutual Corporate Consultants, Blessing Utete, shedding light into South Africa's retirement landscape and what to expect for the upcoming Thought Leadership Forum.